Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We have a lot to get into today, so I'm just going to dive right into it. The goal of this video is to determine the best placement for your free arm when doing a triangle. And when I say free arm, I'm referring to this arm here. This just kind of dangling out here in this picture. We're going to talk about the most ideal place that arm should be to finish the triangle. So first, we're going to discuss traditional options that are taught and the goals of those options. Two, we're going to talk about what I believe should be your option A, then your option B, and then your option C. And then we're going to discuss Brian Ortega's most recent triangle that failed against Alexander Volkanovski. Traditionally, there have been a few different ways it's been taught to finish the triangle. The first way, I think, is the most classic way, is to use that free hand to control your opponent's head, and that makes it difficult for them to posture out. So this would be placing two hands behind the head and pulling their head down, making it very difficult for them to posture, and it's gotten a lot of taps. It's proven to be successful. Option two is to threaten the armbar when you have them in a triangle, and this creates a dilemma. If your opponent tries to slide out and posture out of the triangle, it makes the armbar really, really tight. And vice versa, if they try and shove their arm in to save their arm, it makes the choke really, really tight. So it's a great way to create that dilemma for your partner. And I think it's a really important aspect of jiu-jitsu to always have dilemmas when you're attacking your opponent, to allow yourself to stay in an offensive cycle as long as possible, but that's a different topic and a video for another time. But yeah, I think this is a really, really effective way of going about finishing the submission. And then three, I think, is becoming a very, very popular and widely accepted way of going about finishing the triangle is to scoop inside the leg. And one, this creates angle. It creates a good angle to finish. Two, it makes it difficult for your opponent to stand up and smash their way out of the triangle. And three, it gives you the option to enter into the leg. So again, it creates that dilemma for your partner. And you'll see this is exactly what Brian did in his match. He scooped inside the leg here and is grabbing his own shin here. But as you know, this did not work against Volkanovski's, and we're going to talk about why that is, I believe, why it didn't work. So option A, this is the primary option I think we should strive to achieve when finishing the triangle. And I got this option from Mike Morell's instructional called Triangle Territory, and I'll leave that link in the description below. And he talks about this concept of the black hole. And basically what this means is your opponent is going to try and do everything they can do to get themselves away from your center of mass. So if you think of your center of mass as your belly button, you're trying to create this black hole effect where you're sucking everything in as close as possible to your belly button, your center of mass, right? While your opponent is trying to do the opposite. A lot of the classic escapes out of a triangle involve posturing, right? Like creating distance from your opponent. And there you can use like your arms, as we saw just there, or you can use your legs to create that separation, either by putting it in the armpit or bringing it all the way across their body. But the bottom line is you're trying to create separation between your center of mass and theirs. So what I believe should be option A, the primary option, is to take that free arm and go underneath the armpit, right? Not underneath the leg, but underneath the armpit. This creates a very tight connection between your center of mass and theirs. It makes it very difficult for them to posture. It makes it very difficult for them to stand up, and it makes it pretty much impossible for them to use their legs to create that separation. And also, if they try and do the kind of smash pass where they turn the corner and smash your triangle, it's going to make it an even tighter submission. So that's not a good course of action for your opponent to take out of this position. So I think your primary option should be to go underneath the armpit because it creates the tightest connection between your center of mass and theirs. So now, option B. This would be a scenario where they stood up too fast, right? You didn't have the ability to scoop underneath the armpit because they're already standing or they're just standing up right away. And this happened in Gordon Ryan's match against Josh Barnett. So you can see here, Gordon shot a nice triangle on Josh Barnett. And Gordon right away, you could see him taking this inside scoop on the leg, right? The classic inside scoop that I'm sure you've all have seen before to prevent your opponent from picking you up off the ground, which is exactly what Josh Barnett is trying to do here. And Gordon's a big dude, but Josh Barnett's a whole nother animal, and he can definitely lift Gordon off the ground. So Gordon is taking this inside scoop on the leg to prevent that. However, I think the most important part of this is that Gordon, before he even shoots this inside scoop here, he's taking this armbar grip on the hand. So it's kind of a combination of the armbar dilemma along with the inside scoop. So one, he's threatening the triangle, obviously, but two, he's threatening the armbar, and three, if all goes to hell, he's going to enter into the legs because he has this inside scoop here. So he's creating like a trilemma for his opponent. And again, you have that same dilemma where if they're trying to posture up, they're making the armbar really, really tight. Whereas if they're trying to dive back in, they're making the choke really, really tight. And then, like I said, if everything fails, you have the entry into the leg. So I think this is option B and would make the most sense if your opponent stands up right away and you didn't have the option to shoot for their armpit right away. And we'll see here, Gordon takes that nice inside scoop, has that grip on the arm, and ends up getting the tap. But you could see here, Gordon is off the ground. Like this inside scoop didn't prevent Josh from picking Gordon up. It has a really good characteristic in that it gives you another option of entering into the legs, but it doesn't stop your opponent from picking you up off the ground. And that's what we're going to talk about as option C. But just to reiterate, entering into the legs, it's becoming very, very common for failed triangles to turn into backside 50-50 entries. So we see here, and Lachlan made this very famous in ADCC, and it's a very similar entry off of a failed triangle. And that's available when you take that inside scoop. So again, option B is that inside scoop, but I think it's very important to create that extra layer of dilemma where you're taking this armbar grip on the end of the lever here on the hand of your opponent, as opposed to grabbing their shin up here, grabbing their head or something like that. So now option C, I think, is very valuable when your opponent's primary objective is to stand up. Option C is instead of taking an inside scoop on the leg, you take an overwrap grip on the leg. So we'll see here in this next clip, we have a triangle here, and his opponent stands up and brings him back to the mat. Based on that, you know what your opponent's primary objective is, right? His primary defense is going to be to stand up, to posture up and stand and maybe smash you out of your triangle. So in this scenario, I think it's very, very smart to overwrap the leg. And as we'll see here, when he overwraps the leg and his opponent goes to stand, they pretty much just face plant on the ground. You can see the overwrap's not even like a really deep overwrap, it's just an overwrap, and they just face plant on the ground and he gets a tap. So the overwrap really, really prevents them from standing up with you, whereas the scoop on the leg is really good and makes it difficult for them to stand up, but it's not impossible. You saw Gordon was off the ground, right, when Josh Barnett was picking him up, but it gives you the option to enter into the legs. So a little give and take there. So I think it's kind of up to you to assess, like in this scenario here, his opponent was really trying to stand up. So in that type of situation, I think it's really smart to do that overwrap grip because it prevents that from happening. Now let's get into why I think Brian's triangle didn't work against Volkanovski. And just to preface this, I'm just a purple belt. You know, Brian's been doing triangles for a very long time, and he knows everything I've said in this video and much, much more. So I don't want to take anything away from him. He's an amazing grappler, and the Gracie Academy down in Torrance was actually my introduction into jiu-jitsu. So I'm very grateful to them. They do a lot for our community. So shout out to them, and shout out to Brian for putting it all on the line and showing his true heart out there. So he's done many triangles in the UFC, and he's actually done this exact same scenario where he's grabbing his shin, takes that scoop grip on the leg, and finishes a triangle, right? It works. It definitely works. I'm not saying it doesn't. But you'll see here, he shoots this beautiful triangle, takes that scoop grip on the leg, and is grabbing his shin, exactly like we saw in the last clip. But in this scenario, Volkanovski falls. And as he falls, he's creating distance, that black hole concept that we were talking about. He's trying to create distance of his body from Brian's center of mass. And we'll see here, I think this is a really good depiction of it. You could see the opening here developing. And this opening is developing because this shoulder has freedom to move right here. Because Brian has a scoop grip on the leg here, when you compare this to the scoop grip on the armpit, this shoulder here, which is the same as the shoulder here, is completely owned when you take this grip on the armpit. So if your opponent were to fall in this scenario, you would stay so connected to them and they would not create any distance at all. You would get the tap. In this scenario, by falling, he's creating that separation. This shoulder moves away. And again, Brian has this grip on the ankle here, like Gordon did. He had a grip here on the hand. He had that dilemma of the armbar as well. There's no dilemma here of armbar versus triangle versus leg entry. It's just defending a triangle. And Volkanovski does a really good job of that by creating separation away from Brian's center of mass. And it's because this shoulder here is allowed to move away freely. And this results in him getting out, and it leads to a scramble. And yeah. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Please subscribe. Please share the video. Please like and give your feedback. And yeah, I really appreciate the support. And we'll see you next time.